One of the things I was interested and I wanted to talk to you about it was that, you heard about Marshawn Newey, right? The
Yeah.
guy from the Cowboys a couple of weeks ago. Here's a young kid in his prime playing for the Cowboys, one of the best franchises in all of sports. And, his kid takes a touchdown, scores it, defense, and a couple of days later, he unalives himself. I mean, what a tragic story, right? You heard about that, right?
Yes. Yes. No, it's absolutely terrifying, right? So sad. And you hear about stories more and more like these, right? Come up. Even with people who you see have hit their highest peak, right, in their profession, all the success in the world. Like you said, he just scored a touchdown against the Cardinals on Monday Night Football a few days earlier, right? And then he goes from that to unaliving himself in a matter of hours, man, a few days, right? It's just absolutely so sad.
And the thing that it's tragic, right? You would think franchises, sports teams, and teammates would have an idea, or even family, right? But no one knew the things that I was reading, people that were talking about it. No one knew he was having, these things that he was dealing with, right? And that's hard. Obviously that's tragic, and, pray for the family and the team and how difficult that is. And I would say, to me, why did it happen? Now, we're not here to go judge and understand, but he obviously felt alone. He probably didn't have anyone that he could talk to. He didn't have enough support that he probably needed. And maybe he also felt like he couldn't say anything. I mean, that's kind of a lot of things that people encounter. I know I felt that in the past for myself until I found some great people, mentors, friends, family like you that I get a chance to talk to. I mean, there's battles you have. I mean, I have. I mean, I'm sure you've had them too.
You just never know what's in everybody else's heads around you, right? Obviously, mental health is becoming more and more of a focus, I think, across sports and society in general, which is a fantastic revelation. I think since post-pandemic, it's become even more of a greater focus, right? But what's happened with Mr. Nealand over the past 2 weeks and his family, and you've seen all the fallout from it, right? I don't think there's been enough fallout personally, too. It feels like not even talking about it, right? Like you're bringing this up right now, or 2 weeks or a week and a half after it happened. I don't see it on the headlines anymore. It's gone away, right? Because in our microwavable society, it's just yesterday's news, and there's so much content, so much news stories out there, right? It's off everybody's plate already, and it can't be. Hopefully the NFL is taking some measure. Hopefully the Cowboys are taking some measure after this as well to reassess every opportunity, every communication that they have standing currently, and make sure everybody can speak up if they're in some sort of dire situation like Mr. Nealand was.
Well, to your point, I agree with you. I just think not just, let's just say sports franchise in this case. What about spiritual, right? What about friends? What about associations, right? Pressures that he must have been feeling being someone, again, you're talking NFL level, right? But then having gone through high school football, college football, draft process, playing for, again, the most expensive, high value franchise in the world of all sports, right?
Right.
But then people look at athletes in one way. Now, what about the person that's working, just a regular 9-to-5, regular Joe, or people that are, in a relationship, or people that are in families, whatever the case is? The bottom line here was he felt like he had no one to go to, and there was no one that had no idea. And that's the thing in today's society that, that touches me, and I know a lot of other people. I get a chance to talk to people, I'm connected with around the world, and having conversations like this. And I'm sure for the folks that are listening, I'm sure they feel the same way. Again, doesn't matter whether you're a male, female, whatever it is.
No.
We all have our internal things that we go through. And it is important, as you said earlier, right, to have resources, to have someone to talk with, someone that, hey, don't be embarrassed to mention it, because friends will always listen, right? You may never agree 100%, but they're going to be there for you, right? That's the whole point, So, that's why I thought I'd bring it up, because again, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what things are going to go on with specific to the franchise, but I know there's a bigger issue there globally that people are going through, and let's keep talking about this, right? Now let's move on from, the sports thing, but let's just talk in general, right? Think about this where, some people will say society today, whether it's from the teenagers to the 20s, the 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. Obviously, the older you get, most people get a chance to have some experience. They get a chance to evolve. They get mature, let's just say, right? I'm still a little immature. I'll admit that to you, but it doesn't matter, right? Because it's all about life perspective, but still need to talk to people. How I go through my stuff, just as I'm sure like you do and other people listening to this right now, they'll go through it, but I know to be able to identify, okay, I need to talk to somebody,
Yeah.
or I need to
Yeah.
identify if I'm listening to somebody, the most important question to ask is, are you okay? People ask me that, and that's always good to ask. It's something now everyone's going through their stuff. It's tough today. There's a lot of stuff going on, you know, politics, economy, life in general, and all that
Absolutely.
stuff. But, you know, your thoughts on that, right? I mean, what do you think?
I think it's an interesting point you bring up, right? Because you and I are two different generations ultimately, right? High school days were in the 90s, right? There was a big, as I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, a big machismo element to the way you carry. You played football, right, in high school, right? Do you find growing up in your teens, your 20s, your 30s, into adulthood, where you are now, do you find that it's more difficult for you, someone of your generation, to ask for help and to say, "Hey, I'm not okay"? Because I myself, being a millennial, there's been more conversation about it, right? My circles growing up, and it was easier for me to flag that, it feels like. But someone from your background, what were your experiences like in that?
Yeah, no, I mean, you nailed it, right? Like in the time when I was going to school, right? Say high school, for example, it
Yeah,
was machismo. It's like everyone was really, out there like, hey, I'm a tough guy, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna show any fear. I'm not gonna show any sensitivity or whatever it's defined as. You don't want to show like any, clink in your armor, so to speak, right?
sure.
But honestly, I think about it now, all of us had it. All of us had that fear. All of us had and wish we had people to talk with. And it's not saying, "Oh, I'm talking to someone, softer or anything like that," mean I was weak. It was
No,
just more of you need that interaction. And today, I do appreciate there is some of that, but then I see a tipping point to where, okay, you could still have men, women, whoever have this machismo about them, wherever they come from, what country, race, or whatnot. But again, people listening here know this too. Some people will take it to extreme to where like, "Hey, are you okay? I'm gonna butter you up," and I'm not faulting that. I'm not saying because people have also gone through experiences with their families, right?
hmm,
People have gone through trauma. We've all of us have gone through some level of that. And to answer your question, I do think in today's society, I think it's better. I do think that there's some things where people are inspired and encouraged to talk more, right? To
yeah,
be more open with their feelings. And I do think it's a good thing. But then it's the follow up. Like
yeah,
that's the thing here. You've got people talking out there who are just speaking stuff, regurgitating what people are saying. They maybe haven't lived it. I'm not discounting anything that say doctors say or other people, but it's up to the people listening to really identify within themselves, are you really okay? And if you aren't, talk to somebody. Regardless of how you went to school, how you were raised, you have to think about yourself and your mental health and just how you are. And that ties into everything like you mentioned.
absolutely. But it's forming those relationships to that strong extent of where you feel comfortable telling the other person, "Hey, I am okay. I'm not okay." I've been in so many corporate settings where we get on a group call, right? And you go around the room and you ask people, "How you feeling? How you feeling?"
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
not a good platform, right? That's not a good avenue for that at all. You need to be direct. You need to form the relationship with the person, right? To where he or she feels comfortable, just relinquishing it all, right? And opening up and saying, "Hey, no, I'm not okay right now." And then to your point, there's been people in my life, there are people in my life right now who flagged their issues, who flagged their conditions and their states of mind that I have not followed up with either. I'm guilty of that, right? I think we all are to a certain extent. Life gets in the way. Life is moving too fast for all of us these days in this society, right? We need to take time to reflect on the people in our circles who might have in the past, maybe a month ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, said, "Hey, I'm not okay," or I showed some sign of to you that I'm not okay, and check in on them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you're right. You're right. And I think that's the thing. And I would also warn, right, for like this too, and a lot of people on the call, you say some of these things to the wrong people who aren't your friend, they'll use it against you. So it is
Absolutely.
tough too, and it's hard to identify that. And that's some other things that we'll talk about, in some of our other segments for sure. But the net of what we're talking about today, and really what I wanted to talk about with you and the listeners is, don't be alone. You're not alone. right? Have people you want to talk to, people that care, people you trust, and for the most part, they'll listen. If anyone tries to tell you, oh, you should do something bad or negative, don't listen to that. And we're not here again saying we're the experts. We're saying we want to listen. And we'd love to have you guys that are listening in and give us your feedback, ask some questions, and anything you want to talk about. The whole purpose of doing this is we want people to have a platform so they feel like they're heard, right? And that's it. And just it doesn't happen enough. There's a lot of people that are alone out there today, and people that have gone through from the military, people have gone through law enforcement, people are just in homes that have had some trauma. I mean, across the board, there's a lot, and we're just touching the surface right now, and this
Absolutely.
is more to go into, but I do think for at least the thing we want you guys to know, like from my position, you're not alone, guys. Just know that we're here, and you have people. Worst comes to worst, there are resources out there, and there's the things that we could talk about and how to just make sure if you're in a bad environment, get out, walk out, get out right now, just get away from it. Just don't continue to get that to be drawn into all that negativity, right? And you know what it is. And sometimes it is difficult because you're finding that right balance on, do I need to stay here? But if I leave, I don't get this. If I stay, I get this, but it comes with this, right? So there's pros and
Mhm.
cons, so, but in the end, that's the stuff I felt like, hey, wanted to talk to you, again, unfortunate with what happened to Nealon, Mr. Nealon, with what happened there, a couple of weeks ago, and had the brightest future ahead of him. And, just it's really a tragic story and stuff that people are dealing with. But we try to encourage everyone else that's listening. You're going through that. You're not alone, guys. And that's it. So,
Absolutely. Say something. Say
yeah,
something. And I hope in our next segments down the road on this journey with you, we can illuminate our listeners on some of these resources that they have so they can get the right help and through the right means.
right,
Absolutely.
right. And as we always say, right, to everyone, hey, we love you guys, and there is love out there for you guys, right? So, thank you for listening, and please, again, give us comments, questions, message us directly, and any segments and anything you guys want to talk about, or even heck, we could even try to get you guys on. We'd love to talk, because that is what we want. We want to help.
Yes,
With
indeed.
that, have a great one, guys. Thanks for listening.